maybe if it catches the light a little bit, it's kind of like
Daniel, I'm going to be honest. That looks exactly. That looks
it
almost
does.
exactly like what I.
No. Hello and welcome to the Android Police podcast. My name is Daniel Bader.
My name is Will Saddleberg.
That was okay. I would give you like a 7 out of 10 for that one.
Thank you. I feel a lot of pressure because our producer's actually listening this week, so I feel pressure to get it right.
Yeah, I guess we can't do it live because he'll just be like, nope, do it again. Hello to everybody listening. We are glad to be here. This is a weird week. There's a lot of news, but not a lot of like Android-y news.
Yeah.
I think everybody in the world was doing one of two things in the tech world this week. They were looking at NVIDIA 5090 and 5080 reviews.
Or NVIDIA's stock share.
And they were responding to NVIDIA's plummeting stock price after DeepSeek apparently found its way around H100 chips, or they acquired a bunch of H100 chips illegally through, where was it? Singapore? Dubai? I don't know. Somehow a Chinese AI startup made a GPT-4o quality model for $16 million or something like that. DeepSeek was the story of the week. And it was interesting just how quickly it came. And it's not gone yet as we're recording on Friday morning. Like, it's still very much like page one news. But like early on this week, it was basically the only thing that anybody was talking about on CNBC or anywhere that was not talking about whatever Trump was saying. There's a lot of interesting stuff around it. They make a bunch of comparisons to like Claude and GPT-4o and the new 01 model that OpenAI released late last year, which has its own ability to do sort of reasoning. And while DeepSeek does not win in every situation, although this is their own data, so it's definitely biased, it wins a lot of them and comes very close in most. And the fact that it's free and open source and kind of small makes it fascinating to see what's going to happen. Do we think that like the people or the companies that are relevant to this show, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, Samsung, OnePlus, are going to replace Gemini with DeepSeek? No, that's not what's going to happen here, because as we've learned over the last few months, Google has tied itself in knots trying to make sure that every company on earth uses Gemini in every single facet. If you have a relationship with Google, you are basically being forced through your various terms and conditions to use Gemini. That has never been more clear than with the S25 launch.
Yeah.
The S25 is full of Gemini. Whether it's explicit or not, it's full of Google.
Yeah, half of Samsung's AI-based selling points are actually just kind of Gemini utilities. So yeah, this is it's a Gemini smartphone through and through.
Have you used on your S25 Ultra a single AI feature that you've been like, oh, that's nice, that's useful?
No.
Straight up, just no.
Yesterday, this is not a new feature by any means, but yesterday I was sharing my screen with Gemini to get it to add a ingredients list to keep for the grocery store, so that I could know what to buy at the grocery store. I have done it before. It's one of the only things I use Gemini for, and it just refused. It was adding it to a keep note. It refused to add it to the keep note I was trying to put it in. It would either, first two times it started new notes. The third time it put it in a note from around Thanksgiving, because it had a bunch of like Thanksgiving stuff on it to buy.
Yeah, but then you can use Gemini to search for that note.
That's true. So by the fourth time, when I finally got it to work by like making sure I used the right language and telling it where to put this information, I realized that I could have just copied and pasted everything faster than if I was trying to use Gemini. So what I would say is that AI is actually great, and
And we were wrong.
I love
we were
it.
just, I think it's just important to admit how wrong we've been about AI.
Yeah.
Now that we've been using the S25s for a few
The
days.
S25 Ultra, the first smartphone truly made for AI.
I think we've been proven wrong here. We are sorry, Samsung.
Do we want to dive a little bit into you talking about the S25, your experience with it, and then
I got it yesterday. So I bought the jade green version, which is an online exclusive color.
Only if you are buying one of these phones this year, please buy one of the online exclusives if you can, because the other colors are extremely boring.
I think this color is actually pretty boring too, to be honest. Like I was hoping for some semblance of pop, and this is definitely not that.
Can I see it? I haven't seen it. I've seen it in person, but not in a week and a half. So let's
let me see if I can get it out of this UAG like monster heavy duty case. Hang on. All right, here you go. I don't even think you can tell it's green. Like you maybe if it catches the light a little bit. It's kind of like
Daniel. I'm going to be honest. That looks exactly. That looks.
It does
exactly like what I.
No, it doesn't look exactly like it. Mine is a slightly.
They're all gray. They're all gray. They're all different shades of gray. Yours is a green gray. Mine is a blue gray. But at the end of the
no. It's jade. Okay, it's jade. Okay,
fine.
Gray.
It's a jade gray. Fine, yeah. But like,
get it right.
I wrote about Samsung's color strategy this week about how like. If the phones are going to be this boring, can we please have exciting colors that aren't necessarily online exclusives, comparing it to everything from what Apple does with the iPhone to what car manufacturers do with mid-cycle refreshes. But yeah, some fresh colors would go a long way. And I'm not just talking about online exclusives. I'm talking about things you can buy in a carrier store.
I like the idea of there being a reason to buy a Samsung phone on their website, because it just like reinforces the fact that buying through a carrier is a bad experience most of the time.
It is. Yeah, that's true.
But I would also say it wasn't that long ago that buying a new or like any Samsung phone, but particularly like the more popular ones, like the S series, would be impossible on their website. Do you remember how many issues that website had during the pre-order periods?
Yeah.
Like this wasn't that long ago. This was like 2 years ago, where the whole website would crash for like an entire day.
Yeah, it would go down immediately and be down for most of it. Like we would run news stories of like Samsung website's back up, update. No, it's not. Like,
And it's unclear if they just moved from like Azure to some other cloud, or if it was. No, they went to Azure probably from Amazon, from like S3. Or if they actually just have way lower demand, you know? It's like nobody's buying the phone anymore, so they can handle the bandwidth. I mean, look, the early reports are saying that the S25 Ultra is selling well.
That's especially in like South Korea. And I, if you're coming from a 4-year-old phone, I could see upgrading to this.
You know what blew my mind? When you go to the S25 page and you look at the software support timeline, security patches end in 2032. Yeah, which is just saying that 7 years from now is 2032.
Yeah,
which is a mind.
It's not going to go backwards.
It's not relevant to anything other than the fact that time moves forward and makes me feel old and bald all the time.
I mean, you can say that, but you kicked off when I joined the call. The first thing you said to me was like, "You're going to feel like shit in 10 years."
I did, because I do. You are almost exactly 10 years younger than me, so I get to say that. All right, let's. I don't know what else to say about DeepSeek. Like, there are many other podcasts, Hard Fork, Vergecast, Wall Street Journal, Wired. All of the tech podcasts this week talked about DeepSeek in ways that we cannot, and I'm not even going to pretend that we'll be able to match them.
It is the big story of this week, but it's
not something I think we can or should try to compete with.
And also, like, the ramifications of DeepSeek will not be felt for like. True. I mean, if it's been felt for NVIDIA stockholders, I guess, but for everyone else, we won't really know what this means for a few months, probably. Like, does DeepSeek become the Chat GPT rival that we thought
No.
Gemini would
What
be, or
rival?
does it fizzle out? I'm just setting up possibilities, or does it fizzle out and we don't talk about it again in 2 weeks? Like, who knows? Anything is possible in this very moment, and yeah, I don't know. I the only other thing I would say about DeepSeek is that I do not care if they stole data from fucking
They absolutely
OpenAI.
stole data.
Good,
and
great,
data was
fine.
stolen
I don't
from
care.
the
I
internet.
do not feel bad.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like OpenAI, every LLM
has stolen data. So why should just because DeepSeek is a Chinese company, I should feel that that one's bad and OpenAI is good.
Yes.
I don't feel that way. I feel like they were
because
both
America
bad,
first
or
gets to steal data.
Listen, you're Daniel's practicing for when Canada is absorbed into my great nation. He wants to make sure he passes the citizenship test. So he's just refreshing his America First policies.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light?
Nailed it.
Was last gleaming.
Something like that, yeah.
Something gleaming.
I'm going to a Sabres game tonight. I don't know if you know this, but they do both anthems at Sabres games because we're so close to Toronto.
Are you serious? They do the Canadian anthem at
every
a Sabres game?
Every home game.
That's amazing.
They do
so
the
funny.
The American anthem, and then they do the Canadian national anthem. They I believe have different singers for them too. So
that rules. I love the Sabres now.
They just got 2 hat tricks in their last game.
I bet you the Bills don't do that.
We're going. I don't want to talk about the Buffalo Bills. No one wants to hear me talk about the Buffalo Bills.
I was so devastated for you.
You were one of several people texting me.
I was so sad for you. It was such a good game.
It was another game of the year. We always lose the game of the year.
But they got further this year than they ever have, so that's important.
I mean, yeah, we were in the championship 4 years ago, but yeah, I see your point.
Sorry, I mean it has been a while, but
it's been a minute. We've lost the last couple of divisional rounds. Anyway, no one's here to hear about football, and the good news is you don't have to hear me talk about the Buffalo Bills for 7 months now.
Oh, I'm sad for you. Because, no, it's also sad for me because then you're just going to revert back to talking about Lost. So there's only 2 things that you were interested in, and if you're not talking about the Bills, then I have to hear you talk about Lost. So
you're right. I should start a Lost rewatch. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah,
that is what I should spend the next 7 months doing.
Okay.
What are we putting off talking about? I should look at this. You want to talk about Pebble?
So this was interesting, right? We met Eric at CES. Talked a little bit about what his thoughts are on AI, what his plans are, what he's working on at Beeper, right? Like Eric is an interesting guy. He's always kind of done his own thing. I've known Eric for almost 15 years. I met him at Google I/O 2012 when he introduced Pebble as a prototype, basically, before it went on Kickstarter. And it was still not a finished product. It was just a bunch of wires with an e-paper display. But it worked. It had a really basic version of what would end up being Pebble OS. As we know, Pebble got acquired by Fitbit, which then got acquired a few years later by Google. And now with Pebble, I mean, basically Pebble, with Pebble disappearing, but also still having this sort of lingering interest by DIYers with Rebel OS and a couple of other, Eric himself maintaining a bunch of his own sort of forks of the Pebble OS source code. He has finally convinced Google to put Pebble OS to open source Pebble OS and to share the source code and allow people to basically create their own version of it. Now, it's not entirely open source. There are still a bunch of proprietary stacks for like Bluetooth and stuff that will not be available for everybody. But if, Eric basically said that he will be working on building another Pebble watch at some point. And he's going to sell it because he couldn't find any other company to make it, which is crazy.
I'm into it. I would love to. I never owned a Pebble. I was talking about this with a couple other reporters this week. They were like, we both owned like 3 Pebbles each. What's your excuse? And I was like, well, like looking at the calendar, it came out when I was in late high school, and so I had no money. And then by the time that like the Pebble Time came out or whatever, I had already purchased a Moto 360 like several months earlier. So it was like I just missed the boat. I had already bought a smartwatch by the time I had disposable income to spend on a Pebble. That said, I would buy one tomorrow if it launched on Kickstarter or something. I think this is a fun alternative to a product category that's got pretty boring in the Wear OS 3 and beyond era. And I think it's cool that Google was like, yeah, you know what? We have absolutely no use for Pebble as an operating system. Like, here is the source code. Go at it. Fitbit bought this, not us. Have fun. Like, I don't know. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I bought a Pebble. I bought a Pebble Time. I bought a Pebble Time Round. I also backed the Pebble 2. Sorry, the Pebble Time 2 on Kickstarter in 2016, which was then refunded to everybody because it Fitbit bought Pebble and then never did anything with it. So, well, it didn't do nothing with it. I mean, it integrated the parts of the OS into Fitbit.
But it felt like it did nothing with it. Like it didn't feel like anything ever came out of that. Mostly because, like, I mean, there were 3 or 4 years there in between when Pebble was purchased and Fitbit was really absorbed into Google, and yet it didn't feel like anything from the Pebble acquisition ever came to market. I don't know.
But I mean, back then, like, this was back in 2016. I just went to the Kickstarter page. Pebble raised nearly $13 million for the Pebble 2 and Pebble Time 2. And the Pebble Core, which was a 3G wearable for phone-free running with GPS, music, and Amazon. Do you remember this? I had completely forgotten that they made a Core. It was like basically an iPod Shuffle, but with 3G.
Wow. It was $69.
Nice.
Wow. This is that's not what I meant, but I just mean that it's like rad to see this, like when you think about cellular connected devices for like running or something, like it's always an upsell. And so, like, the idea that they were like, no, it's this little thing we made that is like connected to cellular. It is supposed to just like be like a little running accessory, and it's cheaper than our smartwatches. Like, I love that.
I have a Pebble Time, the original Pebble Time, in my closet, unopened in a box. And I told Eric this, and he's like, holy crap, like, that's going to be worth something one day. So I'm just never going to. No, I'm actually going to open it because I don't think I have my older Pebbles anymore. But he was saying that he's been wearing a Pebble Time for 10 years and the battery's still okay.
Yeah, he had a Pebble Time Round on, I think.
Was it a round? Yeah.
I think it was a round. Because I remember the bezel. He had the white bezel. Yeah, no, he said the battery life was fine on his, which is rad. And so the one that you have sitting in a box must work okay. Like,
I hope so. I hope
once this open OS is out, like, you should make that a project.
Well, I mean, you can still connect it today with on Android. It's just it won't. Like, there is an app that you can use to connect it.
There you go.
I don't know if it works like super well.
Yeah,
you just have to download the APK because it's not on the Play Store anymore. But I think it fits with the sort of retro trend that we're seeing all over the place, right? Like, I don't think I still see people wearing calculator watches. You know, it's not uncommon for me to see that.
Well, there's nothing cool about an Apple Watch or Apple Watch competitors. And I'm sorry to frame it that way. I know that's not an Android-centric way to frame it, but, like, you know what I mean. Like,
well, I don't think Apple. I think smartwatches in general are just now commodities of the various ecosystems.
They're fitness trackers, really. Like, they're smartwatches, sure, but they're really like health products, and there's nothing particularly cool about health products, no matter how much Whoop wants to make its product seem cool in all of the ads I've been getting lately.
I don't know about that. I think the thing about smartwatches is that most of them do an okay job with fitness tracking, and then there are people like who use a Garmin for marathon running who are like, I will never use another piece of technology ever in my life. And if you take my Garmin I was playing dodgeball in December, and my teammate got the worst possible series of events. She went to catch a ball, and she was wearing, I think it was like a Forerunner 2, and it hit the screen just at the wrong angle, and the display exploded.
Oh my God.
The whole thing just, like, the top of the watch just came off, and it was a spectacular explosion of miniature parts. But I've never seen somebody as sad as she was about losing a piece of tech, because she loved that thing. Like, she was like a mountain biker and a rock climber and a hiker and a marathon runner. Like, she's somebody who just, like, the outdoors is her safe space.
Yeah.
And the idea of like losing her Garmin smartwatch for her was worse than losing her phone.
Yeah.
So I get it. People love those things. But yeah, I don't know if people have the same attachment to their Apple Watch or Galaxy Watch.
They certainly don't. Yeah, no. It's well, I guess that's what happens when you build something like a niche gadget versus something that is supposed to appeal to like the broadest audience possible, right? I mean, like, that's true for movies, that's true for art, like it's true for everything, where it's just like, if something feels right, like that Garmin watch felt personalized to her activities and hobbies and the things she did in her life in a way that like the Apple Watch can track a lot of those things, but is not necessarily built for those things first and foremost. And so I get it. Like, that's a piece of technology that fits into your life in a way that you didn't see coming. I mean, that's what all of these companies want AI to be, is a thing that fits into your life that you're like, wow, how did I go grocery shopping before AI? And the answer is that you copied and pasted the shopping list into Google Keep, and it actually went a lot faster than if you'd used AI.
You picked up the watermelon and tapped it with your knuckle, as opposed to being like, hey, Meta, what is that? Is that watermelon ripe? It's like, no, that's actually a honeydew, you idiot. It's like, no.
One of the big Samsung things is like, point your camera at your fridge and it'll tell you what to make, which is like not the first time that like an AI company has been like, point your camera at your fridge and we'll tell you what to make. But like, maybe I just grocery shop different than other people. But like, if I did that, like, I went grocery shopping yesterday for the next few days. If I had done that, right? Like, if I had pointed at it before I went, it would have been like, you have milk and eggs? Can you do anything with milk and eggs? Like, it wouldn't have figured out. There was no like chicken breast in my fridge. Like, I had to go buy that. I guess I just shop differently than what like AI designers think people shop, because I don't.
Did you have any spinach? You could have made a really yummy omelet.
I bought spinach yesterday at the grocery store. There was no spinach in my produce drawer before that. So yeah,
you could also make a pretty yummy omelet with just.
Look, it could have told me. It could have told me to make an omelet. And there was cheese.
Or a quiche.
We had cheese.
Or a quiche.
Sure,
you could have done a quiche.
It could have figured that out. Do you know who else could have figured out that I have eggs and cheese and milk? Me with my eyes.
Look at all the things you can do with it.
But I know the like 3 or 4 things I could have done.
Some people don't. Some people look at eggs and they're like, I'm just going to eat this raw because Robert Kennedy told me to.
It's a weird energy today. I'm kind of into it, but it's a weird energy.
It's been a weird energy kind of week, folks. So
yeah, if
you're on board with us, we love you.
This is all setting us up to talk about the S25 Ultra review that I'll publish next week when we record next week. So until then, enjoy trying to guess how I feel about this phone.
Okay, let's talk about Google giving this ultimatum. Not ultimatum. So
yeah,
Google, like every tech company, laid off a lot of people in 2024, and I think learned a valuable lesson about PR from that, where you probably shouldn't lay off hundreds of people in an email. Meta can do it because everybody hates Meta. And people expect that from Mark Zuckerberg. But for Google, I still think there's enough goodwill out there in most areas where people are like, if Google does this, that's borderline evil. So they're changing their tack a little bit. And they sent a memo to every US employee in its newly formed platforms and devices division to offer them a buyout and to say like, hey, we'll give you a severance, a very generous package, if you're not 100% committed. Now, they're framing this as like, we're not laying anybody off right now, but we are giving you the option. Like, we're going to, at some point, probably do layoffs, but if you're not 100% invested in our quote mission, which is something that Rick Osterloh loves to say, we are giving you the option of taking a buyout. This comes after Google basically unified its Android and Pixel teams in 2024. And after Alphabet, Google's parent company, said that they're going to find a whole bunch of efficiencies across the company, right? It's a batten down the hatches, tightening of the belt kind of season, right? Every tech company is going through it. A lot of companies are doing layoffs, and Google is no exception. This comes after years and years of hiring, right? The pandemic led to thousands of new jobs, ironically, a lot of remote work, just a lot of change, upheaval. And now I think there's been a bit of a retrenchment. This is really interesting, right? Because as Android users, we often hear any change to Google's devices and platforms team will end up leading to a worse product, right? That's the obvious conclusion. But I also think it's true that this felt a little inevitable given what Google is going through, right? Like what it's trying to do to its hardware team. It's basically at a point now where the hardware feels mature, and it's really just focusing on how to make AI a more essential part of your commoditized hardware experience, right?
Yeah.
They're doing what Samsung is doing. I think they're doing it better, but they're still doing what Samsung.
I think they're doing it the best of any mobile company
Correct.
right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean.
But it's not leading to like Samsung or Apple level sales.
No.
Right? Not yet.
Yeah.
Probably not ever.
Probably not. Though I don't know. I think the world where the Pixel is as a success on the scale of those two companies is probably a better world for mobile technology, but just in terms of like more competition. But yeah, I don't know. I saw a lot of especially on Reddit, like a lot of fear mongering maybe about this. And I think, like as you said, that this is probably like a way to perform the layoffs that Google sees necessary to function in 2025 without performing those layoffs, or at the very least before performing them. I don't hate the move. I don't think it says much about what to expect for future hardware at all, to be honest with you. And that is the fear mongering that I've seen a lot of people trying to read into this and seeing it as some kind of sign of like the Pixel project dying, which is not what's happening here. Yeah, I don't know. I think it is a way to get out ahead of layoffs that will probably happen, and if people see it as a good time to, if there are Pixel hardware employees who are not into the AI focus that Google has adopted over the last 2 years, then I don't know. I think this is probably not a bad place to get off the train.
Well, I also think now that there's one unified team, the Pixel specific side of it is probably considerably smaller than the software side, right? This is a team that now comprises Android,
almost everything, Android, Chrome OS,
Photos, to some extent. Like, we're not talking about DeepMind here, but like Gemini as an end user product is part of this team, and the integration with Android and with the broader mobile ecosystem is part of this team. Nest, which is a relatively small business, but fairly consequential, is part of this team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. And also, like, we've heard rumblings that Chrome OS is going away and becoming Android. So if you live in a world where you don't need as many people working on a dedicated Chrome OS operating system, Fuchsia is not what it was. Fuchsia is not going to take over your phone anymore. That was a thing that might have happened.
Are we sure? I'm holding out hope. It's launching on it. It's replacing Android any day now.
Any minute, we're going to see a Tizen phone, an Amigo phone.
Tizen phone. Yep. WebOS is back.
Oh, I mean, it never left.
But back in your pocket.
My LG TV is really good at showing me ads, and WebOS was designed, if for nothing else, than to be a really good platform for sticking its head in the middle of my show. I cannot tell you how many times this week I was watching something on my Apple TV, which is a dedicated piece of hardware connected to my HDMI port, and my LG TV decided to put a pop-up in front of it. That should be illegal.
It should be illegal.
I will vote for you if I'm, if the Canadian Party leads are listening to this, which I'm sure they are. If Mark Carney listens to the Android Police podcast, I will vote for the Liberals if you make it illegal for my LG TV to send me a pop-up while I'm watching Severance. It is.
You hear that, everyone? Daniel will vote for the final Prime Minister of Canada.
The last Prime Minister of all.
The last
ever.
one you guys will ever have.
Well, I mean, he'll turn into the governor of Canada.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's
true. That's true.
It's got a nice ring to it. What
Governor
can I say?
of Canada?
Yeah.
I got back from San Jose.
I also want to be pardoned for my future crimes. I'm just putting it out there.
Or past crimes. I'll take whatever.
I've never committed a crime.
Neither has
in the US.
This is too political. I got back from San Jose. This was pretty late Friday, so I don't think I turned the TV on until Saturday. And while I was gone, our TCL TV, which I reviewed for Android Please almost 3 years ago, I have since disabled all of the Google TV stuff on it because it's so buggy. I just have it. So all that stuff, the only time I get close to interacting with Google TV is in the settings. Otherwise, it just launches right into the Apple TV box that we have plugged into it. Probably similar to you, Daniel. It had decided to change the setting of what it does when the TV turns on to go to the generic, you haven't set up Google TV, so here's a TCL TV experience while I was gone. So instead of just turning on the TV and having the Apple TV home screen, it turned into turning the TV on. It would go to the TCL unoptimized home screen because I have Google TV turned off and I don't have it connected to Wi-Fi because I don't trust TCL to not ruin the experience, and clearly they found a way. And it would just sit there for 60 to 90 seconds until you either manually changed the input, or finally the Apple TV was oh right, I'm supposed to be here, and would use is it CEC is the thing that changes it would use CEC to change the input. Terrible. And I finally dug through the settings long enough to be here it is. I don't know why this changed while I was gone, but it's 4 menus down.
It's so frustrating.
Every TV is bad now is what I've read. The picture quality better than ever. The software experience worse than you cannot escape bad software on a TV at this point. It doesn't matter. I don't care who made it. They're all designed to just shove ads into your face.
I have been going through a nightmare of a TV experience over the last couple of months. And I don't know what the culprit is because it worked perfectly for years. And then all of a sudden something happened. It's at the intersection of my Sonos Arc Ultra speaker, my LG C3 OLED, and my Apple TV. One of those components is not communicating properly. I can no longer turn on or off the TV with my Apple TV remote. I have tried resetting all of the settings many times. CEC is working properly. It often doesn't connect to my Sonos speaker properly, so I can't change the volume. But then every few minutes, it will just connect to the speaker and let me change the volume. But then it will stop allowing me to do that, and it will revert back to not doing anything when I press the volume buttons.
Throw my remote through the TV.
And then no, it gets worse. And then there's when it is connected to my Sonos speaker and it's outputting through the speaker, it skips every 20 or 30 seconds. It'll just skip. This has never happened before. It's all just worked perfectly for years. And not only that, but you know how I would, we talked about Sonos a lot over the last year, and I would say everybody's complaining about their Sonos experience, but I have never really had any issues with my Sonos speakers. Now I have issues with my Sonos speakers every day, every single day. They won't connect to AirPlay. They will just lose connection altogether, and I will need to reset my entire router to get them to reconnect to Wi-Fi. the search experience inside the Sonos app, because if you are on an Android phone, you can't connect to AirPlay. So the easiest way to get Sonos speakers to play something is to go into the Sonos app, because they don't support Cast. But the Sonos app search experience on Apple Music is so bad that it's impossible to find anything. So I basically don't use my speakers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this company went from being one of the companies that I tell people, this is what you want a tech company to
Sonos.
be. Yeah. I loved my Sonos products, loved them. And I am so sad that I'm now among the many hundreds of thousands of people that have turned around and basically told people just, like, I would prefer to connect to a UE Boom speaker, like sitting on my living room table, that sounds like a tinny piece of crap compared to an Era 300, then have to deal with AirPlay telling me that it can't connect to my speaker one more time. Like, it is just absurd to me that my Nest Hub Max that has been sitting in my kitchen for how many years now? 5-6 years, is infinitely more reliable than any Sonos speaker I have in my home. Bananas. Anyway,
have you considered that if Sonos pivoted to AI, that would probably fix everything?
I do think it's coming. I do think it's coming. They have no choice.
Absolutely. Whoever the new, there's no like permanent new CEO yet, right? It's like an interim CEO.
No, it's the Quibi guy. Permanent? It's Tom Conrad.
God. And you are definitely, then the pivot to AI is definitely happening if it's a Quibi guy.
It's the Quibi guy,
or a pivot to short form 5 to 10 minute quick bite video. Either way, I think you win in the end. So just hold on to that hardware, and eventually it'll start working again, probably.
What else can we complain about today?
What else happened this week? I don't know. I Google Maps renamed the Gulf of Mexico.
We're not doing that. No, we're not saying that Google officially on their Twitter account said that it would rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Okay, what else do we have to talk about?
Sounds like the Pixel 9a is going to be $500 again.
That I don't think anybody cares about. I think what's more interesting is that it's going to be coming in like March.
March sounds like.
That's interesting. I think, like, obviously with the flagship Pixels moving to August, which we know, it makes sense for the Pixel A series to move up to March. Less interesting is the phone itself, which seems like it's exactly what people would expect for a Pixel A phone at $500.
Yeah.
Is there anything here that you find interesting?
Yes and no. I really liked the Pixel 8a, to be honest with you. It was kind of a secret dark horse for my favorite phone last year, and I really liked the Pixel 9. So like I have a hard time being like, no, I'm not excited for this device. I think it'll be like a really good value buy. I'm really excited that it is keeping its $499 price, because we saw the OnePlus 13R go up to $600. And I think that's a worthwhile price for what you get with that phone. But I do think it's great to see that there is still this $500 mark here. And I think that will help the Pixel 9a stick out a little bit more, especially considering it has, it will likely have a Tensor G4 and all that. And I think March is like a good spot for it, to be honest. I think that helps it make a little bit more sense. I do hope that, like, because I believe Google's still selling the Pixel 8. I hope they kind of just close out on that series once the 9a is there, have the Pixel 9 lineup be what it is, and maybe keep the 8a around as like a really cheap alternative, but otherwise have it be what it is. I'm less sold on like the design language of it. I still haven't fully decided how I feel about it. Sometimes I think it looks good in these leaked renders. Sometimes I think it looks bad and unfinished. It kind of just depends on the angle. So we'll see what it looks like in person. But I'm not excited for it. It's no Pixel 10 or anything. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same. Sure, let's do that. I think that's it. I think I'm just gonna call it
the whole show.
That's it. Yeah, we're done. Okay. That's the last episode.
All right,
folks. It's been really fun.
The last episode.
Why not? Let's just fade to black right
quitting?
Yeah, I'm quibbying.
All right. You're quibbying.
Yeah. I'm going down with the ship, is what's happening. I'm becoming the CEO of Sonos. I just wanted to let everybody know this.
What's the opposite of quiet quitting? Because I do feel like that's what you're...
I mean, it's definitely quibbying. Like going down in just like a fiery ball. That's not a good
We will go. What is making you happy this week? Is it the promise of Diablo?
No,
it sounds almost threatening.
That's actually making
over
me
your life.
anxious.
Yeah, you seem stressed about it.
What's making me happy this week? I read a book that I finished last night called Playworld by Adam Ross, and it absolutely blew my mind. It was one of the best books I've read in a very long time. It's just a phenomenal novel, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's a long book. It's around 500 pages, but I blew through it in like 3 days. It was incredible. You'll see a premise that is a little off color, I would say. I'm not going to get into it, but that should not keep you from reading this. It is not about that. That's a headline. It's not the meat of it, but I would say if you're into like coming of age stories, and I haven't read a great one in a long time, this is a good one. This is an amazing one. Yeah, so that's what made me very happy this week. What about you? What's making you happy this week?
I'll follow suit. I watched a coming of age movie called Dee. It came out last year. Did you see Dee?
No, but I have been meaning to.
Watched it on the plane coming back from San Jose. Really, really charming coming of age movie. It's very 8th grade, but what if it was a boy? It's very Lady Bird in parts, but 13-year-old boy instead of a adolescent girl.
Yeah.
And it hit really hard for me personally because it takes place in 2008 and they're like 8 months older than me. I think they're technically would have been a grade above me if I went to the school, but like the things that this like 13-year-old is doing in 2008, like right before high school starts, is like very, it's what my childhood was like, right? Like he has like a MySpace that he makes a Facebook that he's not supposed to have, and is on AIM and is out like skateboarding with his friends and all this shit, right? And like I don't know, I just found it like deeply enjoyable, both on a nostalgic level and just like as a film in general. Yeah, it's great. Go watch it. It's also 90 minutes, so it's in and out.
Perfect time, the perfect length.
It might be there we go, 94 minutes. So yeah, it's great.
And this podcast was also the perfect length. It's an hour.
Once Jules gets done cutting this thing down, it's like it's a Quibi. We made a Quibi.
We did, but we made like 6 episodes of a Quibi show. We made the best show that Quibi aired. The girl with the girl with the golden arm.
Yeah, it's the only Quibi show anyone remembers. They made a whole additional season of Reno 911 on Quibi, and yet the only show that people actually remember is the one with the golden arm.
I mean, it did have Rachel Brosnahan, which is why.
It did. It had Sam Raimi in some capacity. I don't remember what.
Wasn't there a Spielberg show? Am I not remembering that?
Yeah. Well, he's friends with Katzenberg.
I mean, yes, I'm aware of this. They are thick as thieves, those guys. Oh man, 2019 was just a different time. Steven Spielberg is writing a horror series you'll only be able to watch on Quibi.
Yeah, it never happened.
Quibi was set to launch April 6th, 2020. Oh my good God.
Here's the good news is that Spielberg's After Dark does have a little section on the Wikipedia page, Steven Spielberg's Unrealized Project. So it does have a bit of a legacy.
It's a shame. It's a damn shame. We never got it. All right, we'll end there. But this has been fun. I think this has been our best work yet.
Yep, absolutely.
What you're not serious?
No. Wrap the show up.
I
want to ask you what crime you committed.
How dare you? All right, folks, that's it. Send your feedback to podcast@androidpolice.com. We love hearing from you. Tell us what you're listening to, watching, reading,
what crimes
you've committed in New York State. we want to know it all. And go listen to many other shows all about DeepSeek because they did a better job than we did. But that's okay because we talk about this is a true crime podcast actually. This is what we're pivoting to. That's it. That's the show. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.